Hey, it's your middling favourite, not quite every 2-month game update, back again for more interesting stuff. As you can see, we've done quite a bit. We left off with this fun little guy walking across the floor and glitching out, and he's had a little bit of prototype work for his animation, and he walks up walls and things now. Not really well, but I wanted to test it out, see how I wanted to do it in future. This animation that I had before, I don't think he looks skittery or shivery enough here. I'm not really an animator, so it will probably never be as good as I really want it to if I do it myself. Eventually I'd like to do something like this, very inhuman and strange and twitchy. And while visual stuff wasn't really my priority, I did still have a small diversion to test some things. Here's the effect that I try generating for when you're in a field of haze for too long, things start getting freaky for you. It's essentially just a combination of a radial blur, simplex noise, a texture, some vignette, and some normal shifting using some more noise. I don't want it to be too powerful so that it's distracting, but I think this sells the whole things are a little bit fucky around here effect. There's also some noise, but it's probably a little bit too annoying and high-pitched right now, or at least so I've been told. Apart from that, I also had a test run with my interaction system here. The animations aren't perfect as usual, but I wanted to see another complex animation and interactable setup. So that's what I've got here. It's a locker that you can hide in, which does its strange little response to haze whilst you're hiding inside of it. Simple stuff, but promising since it was really easy to set up. Taking a step back from animation though, we are looking at the AI system this time. So this is what I've got. It's an AI system that will slowly perceive stimuli and have a variety of responses based on how much of that stimulus we've actually picked up, modulated by factors like distance or other competing stimuli or how much of the stimulus we've already received. The responses can scale up from vaguely curious to actively searching the local area to running to follow an obvious stimulus. And then there's a variety of cases for actively interested in the player, sneaking like a predator, or just sitting and watching creepily from a doorway or a dark corner or, I don't know, right in the middle of the room. There's also just chasing you right out of the gate. Early days here, but good start. And here we're also integrating with the interaction system now. The AI can find an interactable near where it's searching and search that spot with a bespoke animation. Don't have the animation done, but here's a good enough example. Here's an example gameplay loop with this terrifying mannequin in place of the actual monster for now. We make some noise and he'll come nearby. We move a bit faster, we make a bit more noise, he starts looking around properly. We sprint and he'll come running towards where he heard the sound. And if we stand with our back to him, he'll approach until we turn and see him, and then he'll give chase. Or if he loses sight of us when stalking us, he'll start investigating nearby. Anyway, Jake says that it's his turn with the microphone now, so have fun with him. A word of warning, don't let him near your butthole.
I've been doing a little bit of design work. We have no concept art right now, so I have to do concepts in model form, which takes longer. Most of the work I've done has been experimenting with the design language and using some references to figure out what common elements we can use. One of the most important and widely used elements in the map will be the corridors. There'll be lots of winding, dimly lit tunnels from room to room, so they need to be one of the first things that feels right. I did some work a while ago on some random asset pieces, which included a corridor shape, but I wasn't quite happy with it, so I've taken the opportunity to redo them after realizing real corridors have curves. I've broken up the sides of the walls into surfaces that can hold different things. Pipes, signage, lights, and space for points of interest and detail, since this is probably a reasonable way to realistically organize a lot of features in a small space. Curved walls do present their own problems, mostly in terms of topology. Door frames and cutout corners both present their own unique challenges, which I'll have to deal with. But at the end of that, we now have a small demo scene, which we can use for testing purposes. So that's cool.
So now that we have a prototype environment asset, I may as well use it with my own little prototype from before, this cinematic event system that I want to use. So here's Jake's tunnel that he mocked up, and here's the system I showed at the beginning. We have a trigger, which is based on the player entering this box, and an effect, which is that this light should start flickering. Then the next trigger is looking away with no effect, and then there's another where you look back at it, and there's a delay, and then the light will break. Some extra stuff afterwards with the next light along breaking as well, or a sound being played far away. It's controlled using these nodes in a list, which I don't like that much right now since it's a bit intractable and hard to design with. I might move it over to blueprints so that it's easier to play around with, but the main thing is that I can design new nodes as needed really easily in C++, so it can be rapidly iterated upon, and at these early stages that's the most important thing. The kind of nodes that I'll want to add will be haze generators, so that you walk into a room and everything starts going batshit crazy. Spooky events, you know, the light's just the beginning, I suppose, but it's a good example of that. This is all kind of coming under the umbrella of the cinematic events, but with a dynamic world. I can do a whole bunch of these within a given level, and maybe for one playthrough you only ever see one in a given corridor, but within longer playthroughs or multiple you might see different ones occurring. And since we might want so many, I want it to be as easy as possible to iterate on and add a new one, which is why here you can see it's so easy. But yeah, adding it into a blueprint, well, it's what they're for, isn't it? So as a caveat, I do need to do a little bit of development on a system to prioritize object control. I can already see issues where the haze system is trying to control an object that a cinematic event is controlling, or vice versa, and that's not even taking into account the player interaction in all of this. In the locker here, I was manually overriding the haze from doing what it was doing to the door when the player was controlling it, but that's not really a scalable solution. However, I do have some ideas on how to handle it, maybe having all objects under an interface with a given control handle. Wow. Anyway, that's all for this month. It's a little bit of a shorter one, but hopefully it's been juicy enough, so yeah, see you later. Oh shit, I forgot to add an Among Us reference.